When most people think about meeting characters at Disney, they think of the Magic Kingdom and princesses. But there's a huge variety of characters in all the different parks that you can meet with. So here are a few of my Hollywood Studios character interactions. Ever since the second movie came out, there's been a huge push for The Incredibles at Hollywood Studios. So of course, I had to go meet Edna Mode. As someone with a background in fashion and costume design, I of course have had a major love for Edna since day one. Just before you make the turn into Toy Story Land, there is a small courtyard with all of the Incredibles action happening. To your left, next to the stand where you can get a Jack Jack Num Num cookie, which I highly recommend, is a small building where you can meet with Edna Mode. The queue isn't usually too terribly long, but it's inside and air conditioned, so does it really matter? This was a really fun interaction for me, even though she's not a face character and so therefore does not speak. There was a good bit of time here and we had a lot of fun. She really appreciated my artwork on the jacket and decreed that that was my personal superpower, which, hey, can't beat that. When Edna Mode says you have a superpower, you have a superpower, okay? It's official. I also told her that I was also a fashion designer, so we had a little bonding over that. That was pretty fun. One of the things I found out about this year is CharacterPalooza. It changes around, it doesn't have a set schedule, you kind of have to luck into it a little bit if you're not there on a regular and frequent basis, but if you do luck into it, it's awesome. For instance, in my case, we had just gotten through a bag check late one afternoon, and before we had even gotten to scan our magic band, off to our right, I happened to see Pocahontas and Meeko. That just sounded amazing. I've met with Pocahontas before, but only at Animal Kingdom, and I had never gotten to see Meeko before, so we had to go wait and try that out. From what I hear, CharacterPalooza is where they have characters all dressed and made up and ready to go for the show that evening, such as Fantasmic, and they've got a little bit of time to kill maybe, or maybe they're testing out characters. I'm really not very sure on that. I've heard both things, maybe it's both, I don't know. But you can meet with random characters. For instance, even though I am meeting Pocahontas and Meeko here, you cannot guarantee that that's who you're going to meet. In fact, you're probably going to see somebody else if you see anybody at all. So since it's totally unexpected and it wasn't even on the app as a character attraction, we really had hardly any line. There were only a few people in front of us and it was really cool. Some of these CharacterPalooza interactions can be fairly long, especially if you have a face character there that can actually talk and interact with you more, because if there isn't a huge line behind you and they're already trying to take up some time, they don't want to just stand there with nothing to do, so they'll stop and interact with you for a while, and it can be really fun. And this way I got a Meeko signature, which is definitely one of my more rare ones, so that was pretty cool since he's not a regularly scheduled character anywhere. between the Chinese theater and the little diner that is a boat on the water there is the For the First Time in Forever sing-along from Frozen, which is a great fun little show and I highly recommend that. But if you follow along that building, at the end of that building, kind of closer to where they exit there, is the Olaf meet and greet. Olaf is, of course, one of the newer character meets. He's not one of the ones that's been there for decades, so I hadn't really heard a lot about him, and I wasn't sure if he signed or not. Since I had never met with Olaf before, I wasn't 100% where I was going, so I stopped to double check with a cast member. There were 2 cast members waiting at the front of his queue, so I went ahead and asked them if I was in the right place, and they assured me that I was. So while I had their attention, I asked if Olaf signed. The first cast member told me that no, Olaf does not sign signatures because he has sticks for arms. And I'm like, okay, of course, you know, that makes sense. Works for me. And then I was told that if I asked a cast member at the end of the line, I would be given a copy on a little piece of paper of his signature. And I was like, that's okay, that's fine. I was just gonna have him sign my jacket, and I held it up because I was holding it, and the second cast member, her eyes got huge and she's like, oh no, hold on. And she basically just sort of snatched my jacket from my hand and she's like, I'll be right back, and goes and just bolts, and I'm like, what is happening? And the first cast member just sort of smiled and rolled her eyes and she's like, go ahead and wait in line, she'll bring it right back. And I'm like, okay, I have no idea what's happening. Someone just took my jacket, but it's a Disney cast member, so I'm sure it's fine, but okay. So we went ahead and got into line. A little while later, while we're still standing and waiting in line, the second cast member returns with my jacket and has somehow magically managed to get me a little bit of extra Disney magic and gotten Olaf to actually physically sign by drawing his little self-portrait on the front of my jacket. I was ecstatic. It was amazing. It's another one of those signatures that I now have that you normally don't get from a character who normally doesn't sign. For instance, when I met with Buzz Lightyear, he usually stamps, but when he saw my jacket, he got really excited and asked if he could actually sign it. So this was a sort of similar situation. I really love that I have a couple of those now that you normally don't get those actual signatures from characters, so they're a little extra special to me, and especially with this being Olaf because he's just so wonderful and so sweet, and I absolutely love him, so that was amazing. Even though I already had his signature, we did stay in line and wait and actually go in and meet with him. When it was my turn to meet with him, Olaf recognized the jacket and got super excited. He was pointing out his signature to the PhotoPass photographer and the cast member, and he was super proud of what he had done, and I was super thankful because, again, that's not something that is typically done, and I thought it was really sweet that he remembered and acknowledged it when I made it up there for my picture, so that was really cool, and it was really a really great, fun interaction that I'm really glad I got to have. So as you can see, from Pocahontas and Miko to Edna and Olaf, there's a wide variety of characters to meet at Disney. It's not all princesses, there's a little bit of something for everybody. They're totally really fun, and I highly suggest that everyone going to Disney pick a couple character interactions to wait in line and hit up. It's always a lot of fun, a lot of magic. You get some great little pictures as mementos, and it's a great fun way to take a nice little break from the high energy of Disney parks. I hope you found this helpful. Have a beautiful day, and I'll see you next time.